Hello and welcome along to the On the Whistle podcast. I'm absolutely buzzing to bring you Africa's biggest football bride this week. We are all over the continent and beyond. We have the most dapper man in football and in journalism, the best of Africa's founder, the man with the wonderful Man United tracksuit, drip on, loyal to the core, Francis Nkwain. How are you? How was your Monday?
Very well, thank you, Zayn, and an absolute pleasure to be with the family again today. Looking forward to a very, very fantastic and exciting conversation about our beautiful South Africa in particular. And I know I am in safe territory given I'm surrounded by three of you. So let's go.
And I think that's an amazing way to split it to Firdose, our editor at large on all women's football, and of course, one of the co-hosts here. Firdose, lovely to see you in Cape Town. We know you also do cricket, but you're going to help us get into the South African story in a minute. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well. It's a beautiful day here, late summer in Cape Town, and it feels just like it's December, basically, almost 30 degrees. We're enjoying some awesome weather and some good stories. So I'm really excited for this because Bafana, which sometimes is on the periphery of my vision, is front and center over the last few days.
Yeah, well, we know Firdose has the loyalties with Banyana as I show you my tea and I take a sip because it's still winter here, although we have some sun.
You'll get your 2 weeks of summer sometime.
Drum roll, please. The man with the sunny disposition always. One of the most knowledgeable people I know on Pan-African football. iDiski Times, Lorenz Köhler. Lorenz, thank you for joining the show. How are you doing in your salmon shirt? Is that the right color?
I think it's pink. I'm not sure. It's a nice shirt.
Then we're pink, right?
Yeah. I just put it on now to give the pod some color. I had a black shirt on just before we started. So I thought, let me put it straight here. But yeah, it's like we're in two different countries. She's talking about summer, blah blah blah. Yeah, and joke. I was in a storm last night. It's cold. It's miserable. I think Joburg is another province of the UK. Honestly, it's terrible weather here.
Well, we have people in the Cape who want to leave and have their own independence, but I think that's a pod for another day. Look, there's a lot to get into for those African football fans out there around our braai. We're going to start in South Africa shortly, where we're going to talk about some of the shenanigans that have been around the Bafana team, whether they'll get dock points, whether they won't get dock points for feeling an ineligible player. Firdose will help break us down that in a minute, and Lorenz will give us the analysis. There are also some really amazing talkers. We're seeing the North African teams once again on the rise, pole position for the likes of Egypt, Morocco, and others in their quest to go to the World Cup in the US, Mexico, and Canada. Let's also save some space to talk about Group B and the three-way battle we're seeing there. It's really exciting for me, the pick of the groups. And of course, we'll get a sense on which Cinderella stories we could see in the 2026 World Cup. There are a number of nations like the Comoros, like Namibia, and a few other teams that might have a chance of qualifying for the World Cup, whether it's topping their group or going through the qualifiers. But for those, let's start in South Africa. Let's start with the controversy. We have a Pan-African audience. We have a diaspora out there. Break down the controversy around the South African men's football team.
Yeah, thanks, Zayn. So this is a story that's really got under my skin because I feel it's something that could have been avoided. And I just want to start by saying that Bafana are on an amazing run. They are sparking a revival in interest. People want to watch them. You know, I'm not always one to sit and watch games, especially games against countries like Lesotho, perhaps, but I watched both World Cup qualifiers over the last couple of days and just really impressed with the way that they're playing. And so that's what makes the story even more annoying. So what happened was when Bafana played Lesotho, they fielded in their starting 11 to Nkwain, who was on 2 yellow cards, and that means that he should have been suspended and he shouldn't have played that game. And reports of this ineligibility only came out before their next match against Benin, which was a couple of days later. So the game happened. We all thought, oh, Bafana have won. They're in pole position. They're going to go and play Benin in Cote d'Ivoire. It'll be tough. But if they win that, they're going to go 5 points clear, which they've done. And really, they're looking like they should be the ones going to the World Cup, unless, of course, this comes back to haunt them. So I've got a couple of things I want to say on this. The one is that the 2 yellow cards were earned quite a long time ago. They were in games from late 2023 and June 2024, which is a long time ago, but it's not like 1976, right? It's like possible in the realms of our memory to remember these things. And I'm just amazed that nobody, not team management, not the media, which Lorenz I know is going to tell us about. I don't know if the coach remembered it. I don't know if the player remembered it. It just seemed like nobody knew that this had happened. And if somebody had known, then they would have also known that he shouldn't have played the game. And then when he played the game, nothing was said. And then something was only said days later when it came to light what had happened. And so this got to me, and I started doing some investigations, and I started asking around as to why this had happened. And I haven't come up with too many answers. The one answer I've got is that either CAF or FIFA should be sending out an advisory to teams before every game saying, these are the players that can't play. I don't know if that advisory got to Bafana. If it did, then somebody didn't open an email, or somebody didn't communicate to the coach, or somebody didn't communicate to the player. And frankly, then that person should be fired, because that's where we are. If the email didn't get there, then I guess there's other procedural issues to talk about. But the bottom line is, once everybody found out about this, Lesotho decided, oh, hang on a moment, we lost the game, but let's complain and see if we can get the point instead. And that'll also then result in Bafana losing the point. It'll help out Nigeria. It'll change the complexion of the group. Unfortunately, they realized too late. FIFA has a 24-hour window for raising these complaints. And I've looked into that as well. And it seems that the complaints that you can raise are stuff like inadequate training facilities, or the hotel not being up to standard, or any kind of harassment on the day. But player eligibility seems to be the one thing that's a bit flexy there. And so when FIFA get wind of this, they might be like, actually, you know what? It doesn't matter when anybody complained. We are intervening. We're docking the points. And everyone I've spoken to seems to think that that is what is going to happen. And I have contacted FIFA. I have contacted CAF. Nobody's replied to me, which is something I'm getting used to in these circles. But I just want to make one comparison before I turn over to Lorenz and ask how this happened, which is what happens in the main thing I do, which is cricket. We have a set of demerit points that players accumulate over time. And if you end up with a maximum number of demerit points, you are suspended from a game. These demerit points are recorded on the International Cricket Council's website. We can go there right now, see who's on what points, and know exactly what will happen if they pick up more points. I want to know why CAF, FIFA, SAFA, everybody involved doesn't have the system, because it's simple 101 stuff, and then we'll all know what should be happening. You know, it's 2025, and a procedural thing like this should absolutely not be what stops South Africa going to a World Cup. And if that's what happens, I mean, what an absolute disaster, right? They haven't qualified since 2002. Some people were born in 2002 who watched these qualifiers and are thinking, yeah, we can get behind this. And if this is the mess up, I mean, I just give up, and it makes me so furious. So, I mean, let's turn it over to Lorenz, because the people I've asked the most questions of are journalists, and I'm fully aware that it's not their job to tell team management who should and shouldn't be playing. But if I was previewing the match, one of the things in my preview would have been who isn't eligible to play. And Lorenz, why didn't that happen? I mean, I'm not saying it's all your fault, but I'm really curious to know why.
For those, if I could come in, that's a great setup, but I feel like we should make the point that Lorenz isn't Danny Jordan.
But it's still got to ask the question.
He's not the one who should have to answer for this. So, Lorenz, please know that this is a safe place for you.
Yeah. Now, look, I mean, it's very valid. But there's so many things that I can address to what you just said. But look, in general, like the football media space, it's moved on from the preview type things. People don't read that stuff. Okay, let's start there. Where you spend you go to the press conference, you do this, you do that, you prepare a great preview, and then 13 people read it. So we kind of moved away from that space, focusing on it primarily. Like let's compare the cricket thing that you mentioned, where everybody knows who's suspended. In the PSL, we have like emails sent to us beforehand, that we'll know, okay, then we put it out there, these guys are suspended. We even get it sent on WhatsApp in PDF form. These are the list of guys, or even at risk of being at suspension, not even just suspended. So you'll know, okay, this guy got a yellow card, boom, he's out for the next game. So you're on top of that. For the World Cup, I mean, for the AFCON qualifiers, they have like this TMS system where when you're putting in the players for the match sheet, the name will be emboldened, and you wouldn't be able to even put that player into the system. It would just like say you can't, because it will show that it's suspended. So those are the two factors where in the World Cup qualifiers it's not like that. It doesn't show that whatever. The only thing that I can think of that might have made everyone slip their mind about this is the fact that there was an AFCON and that there was an AFCON qualifiers in between these games to the Lesotho. Now, that's not an excuse really, because I think like as a team, as a player, as everyone involved in the situation, when he got that second yellow card on that day, you would have been, oh, I'm out the next game. You know what I mean? It's like how could they have forgotten that? You know what I mean? Um, but it's
Lawrence, to come in here, and I know you're going through layers of questions, right? Does the buck not stop at Bafana manager Vincent Tseka? Is he not the one who, if we're to put the onus on someone, he's the person who should be across these things?
Yeah, I mean, as an administrator, that is your job. I mean, nobody wants to point fingers, say, hey, it's you, but I mean, I'm not gonna point fingers at Coach Hugo or Almond
Yeah.
or somebody in Safa or whatever. I mean, if I'm hired to write a story and I don't write a story, you're not gonna blame anybody else. You know what I mean? So
Yes, of course. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I mean, is it as simple as him, or is there somebody else in the structure should be aware? I'm not blaming Coach Hugo Bruce or the coaching staff.
yeah,
They've
look,
got
I mean,
focus
it's a
on.
paper thin setup, technical team. We all know Safa's cash trap. I mean, even if I have to, go in a different direction, if you have to look at our under-17 national team, who just went to the AFCON, they don't even have extra technical team. It's just Coach Hugo, assistant coach, analyst. It's like bare minimum everything. You know what I mean? So I think there is a matter of being stretched. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not an
Sure,
excuse.
sure.
It's not an excuse at the end of the
But
day.
it's good context to what we have in South Africa, right? That's important.
Yeah, there's a lot of people with a lot of hats on in SAFA, in the national team, all the way from the junior all the way up to the senior team. And obviously, eventually things like this are gonna creep in because yeah.
Yeah. So what do we think the likely outcome is going to be here, Lawrence? I mean, what is your view? How will this progress? Do Lesotho have the finances to pursue this? Do they want to pursue this against a COSAFA partner? Like, how do you think this is all going to play out?
Look, I mean, going back to what she said earlier is like the only reason why we're sitting and talking and knowing about this today is because Nigeria are in such a debacle that they went to go find something. It wasn't even their media, it was their fans or something that started these forums online, say, hey, this guy's suspended, whatever. So they're in such a bad position that they were the ones who were pioneering and championing this. Because I got calls like
Are you gaslighting Nigerian fans?
no, it's a
because I
fact.
can see Francis is just losing
No,
it.
it's a fact. I got the call from a Nigerian a guy I know from AFCON, and he was like, "You know, your play is suspended. Why are you guys not talking about this?" Like, what is he talking about? I went on Google and I was like, and nobody, like she said, nobody was talking about it. And I swear, if maybe they had won their previous game, nobody would have known about this until probably the end. Somebody would have found out when Nigeria was like, are we going to qualify? You know what I mean? So I think from a Lesotho perspective, I guys,
Come in, Francis. Come in, Francis. You've been waiting on the sidelines long enough.
No. From Lesotho perspective, guys, we're giving you stadiums, we're giving you a hotel here, and you want to do me like that? No, guys. I don't know. Look, at the end of the day,
Can I please ask a question to Lorenz and say, do you genuinely think that the Lesotho players themselves will not want to go to the World Cup and it's just because Nigeria is complaining? Let me share something with you here really briefly. The 3 points will be given to Lesotho.
And Nigeria will go behind under them.
Yeah, right? So, and if they get the 3 points, they actually go second in that group above Nigeria. So, I mean, to counter the argument that you're making that the Nigerians are fanning it, right? The truth is it's no win for Nigeria. Nigeria are in a precarious position through their own making, regardless. And South Africa will remain top. You go from 13 points maybe to 10 points. and
And
Lesotho will come in second. And then you have Rwanda, who will still have 8 points behind you, and Nigeria will still be where they are. And yes, they may be hoping for further games and what that might mean to them. But I think the Lesotho FA themselves, the idea of what they could win, like Zayn alluded to their budget, I think if they had the potential to qualify for the World Cup and whatever that windfall may be, let's say it's 4 million US dollars that they get for qualifying for the World Cup. If they had to come to my private bank and borrow 1 million to be able to fight this cause, bank would give it to them so they could qualify because they'd be able to pay it
Now,
back.
who are you gaslighting here, Francis?
So I'm saying, I know South Africa and Nigeria don't get along, but please don't attribute this to them. I think Lesotho in their own right would love to participate.
They'll take that 1 million. They'll take that 1 million loan, and then the next game they play is their home game in South Africa, and we'll hammer them, and then they'll waste the 1 million. But jokes
and I
aside,
think as good big brothers, you should be the ones
this will probably be
reminding
their
them
best.
that
This
you
will
owe
probably
them
be
3
their best
points.
opportunity. Like you said, this will probably be their best ever opportunity to qualify for World Cup in a very long time. So obviously, there is with merit. 9 point, will be 1 point behind Bafana, which is crazy. And our goal difference will also change a lot because now we're on +5. We're taking away 2 goals and conceded 3 goals. So it's very,
But
very
the
tight.
truth is, I think you will be able to withstand that. And everybody else, I think, will be playing for that top 4 second place. I think. I know Zayn alluded to this with the work. No, actually, it was Firdose who said like that the interest that you have a coach who used to be the coach of Cameroon, won the AFCON for us or with us, however we want to explain that. But he's a person who's very methodical in his approach to football. And I think he's taken time to win the confidence and the trust of South Africans. And you're beginning to see the fruits of his labor. Some of us were arguing that we wanted him to stay in Cameroon and build on what he had done in 2017. But unfortunately, our own chaotic space allowed us to lose somebody who has a tremendous talent. And if we're talking management, then I think this story is very commonplace across our continent. A lot of our teams, sometimes if it's not for the goodwill, or sometimes actually it's not necessarily goodwill when we're highlighting who shouldn't be playing. Sometimes it's people campaigning for their own players to play. But sometimes that role of the media that Firdose was speaking to, sometimes it's during these press conferences or in some paper that is published that you get reminded, because this gap between that World Cup qualifiers in November, even some of us here, I was commentating or doing some punditry work for the Cameroon game against Eswatini in South Africa. You have a lot of these your brotherly nations who count very heavily on you for your facilities, but also against I think we played Libya like 2-3 days ago. And we had similar challenges with some of our players, but everybody was having to try to remind themselves of these games that took place in November of 2023. And in between, you had the AFCONs, and it's the same players who participated. So remembering which tournament or which qualifiers that game was, it wasn't the easiest for most of us. And but you're right. I think within, no matter how slimline an organization is, for those who spoke about pen and paper, I think we have the ability to remember, especially the player who got the 2 cards. He could put to his coach. But remember, in the last game, I picked up those 2, and they might go, oh yes, as a matter of fact, we need to skip 1 game for you before you play again.
But it was clearly something that was missed, like completely, because you know Coach Hugo, when he comes into the press conference, he addresses everything. Boom, 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 boom. Got the paper. This one's out. This one's out. This one doesn't have a passport. This one doesn't want to play for us. This one was late. He actually spoils us. He comes, he gives us boom, 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 and then everything else is bubble gum after that. You know what I mean? So the fact that he didn't address it in the first press conference, we know they didn't know about this at all.
Lorenz, can I ask you how you think he'll react to mean, he seems like a guy who gets easily upset by things going wrong, especially if it's incompetence, right? And this would
Yeah.
clearly be incompetence. How do you think he'll react? Do you think he'll blame someone? Do you think he'll get someone fired? Do you think he'll get up and walk away?
I don't know about getting somebody fired, but he's going to be upset. He's definitely going to be upset. But I think the one thing with him is he's not going to have an emotional reaction before the outcome is made. So obviously, let's say we lose the 3 points. Let's say by some miracle we don't even lose the 3 points. Then you will start, going, and you will go loud in the media. You will say it as it is. He'll say this one is useless, or this one, you know what I mean? He doesn't hide his emotions. He doesn't
Doesn't suffer
sugarcoat
fools.
anything. Yeah, he's gonna shoot straight from the hip, you know what I mean? So yeah, but after the press conference in Ivory Coast, he just said, "No, I'm not gonna talk about it."
Mm.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
Lorenz, again, just to bring it back to your analysis, you think South Africa will lose these points? You think Lesotho, even though they're outside the window, and there's precedent for this happening?
She said that nobody needs to even complain. Nobody needs to lay a protest. There's a precedent. Nigeria lost 3 points against Algeria in the 28 qualifiers, 2018 World Cup qualifiers. And I think Ethiopia lost 3 points in the 2014 World Cup qualifiers. They were in our group. I think Botswana got the points. I can't remember, but it was Botswana and Ethiopia. Nobody complained. It was just FIFA, boom. You made a mistake, it's an automatic suspension, boom, 3 points gone. Nobody needs to go get the loan from the bank.
And there are no banks with loans to offer.
Francis, did you want to come in before we transition it to the football? Did you want to make
Yes,
one
no,
more?
just to say, I think also something that would make it easier for the decision from FIFA would also possibly be the fact that the table, in terms of leadership, South Africa will remain top. And I think there's something to be said for that. Yes, there's a sanction, but you will still have things within your control. And Lesotho getting 3 points, it makes it interesting. And those who, I think also with the president of CAF being from Eurospace, there will be a need to show that there's some even-handedness, given the precedents that Lorenz was speaking to. So I think even if it's just for the optics, I think that punishment will be meted out. If it's not, not many people will bat an eyelid, but there'd be a taint to it. But we all know at present that the best team in that group is South Africa. I expect them to continue to be the best team in that group. So the remaining 5 games or 4 games they will have after that, they could quite easily use this as a reason to be even more focused and collect the remaining, what would it be, 12 points that they'll need to pull out from that, or something
And all
like
at
that?
home. All of the games are at
Yes,
home.
exactly.
Need
And
to
so
need to
I don't think it would be the kind of thing where you'd be saying, oh, this is really, it complicates things. For South Africa, no.
I mean, Nigeria still qualified with the 3 points deduction as well in 2018.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It happens.
So again, I'll throw this open to the group, but maybe Lorenz, you want to have first dibs. I mean, South Africa, as Firdose had mentioned earlier, as Francis has built upon, are on an unprecedented run in world football. Hugo Bruce has done some amazing work with the team. Let's also understand that the quality of Bafana player is better than it would have been when somebody like me would have been in my prime. And then possibly an over-reliance on Benny McCarthy. But right now, we actually have a team in South Africa that are going to AFCONs and playing in semifinals. They're knocking out Morocco. They're in contention to really go to the US. Whether the president of the US thinks we're persona non grata or not, I'm not sure. But we definitely have a good chance of going. I mean, is that the silver lining here? Is that there's a Bafana team that's operating really well?
Obviously I'd like to be positive and optimistic because of where we were compared to where we are. So when I'm saying that, when Hugo took over, we didn't qualify for the AFCON in Cameroon. We lost to Sudan. We needed a point. Sudan we lost, and he came in when we were at an all-time low. I remember one of the first few games we had a friendly against Eswatini. We sold 115 tickets at FNB Stadium at a 90,000 seater stadium. We were down in the doldrums, and now it's the hottest ticket in town, like Springboks all of a sudden in the space of a couple of years. So for that context, amazing work, amazing turnaround. I can't believe it. When they hired him, I was like, let's see. But he's made a lot of people eat humble pie.
I was the exact same mode as you. I wasn't convinced he was the right guy for us.
I'm like an old guy coming here to get his last paycheck, and he'll go away and then back to local. Then Benny comes in. I thought that what was, but I think it's because we were just so hurt from all the disappointments over and over. But now he's obviously on track to be the longest serving coach and potentially our best ever coach, if he continues this trajectory. What's impressive is that we've become difficult to beat. Not necessarily that we playing amazing football, or, like Joga Bonito, whatever. It's just very difficult to beat. And the games that we did lose was the last one was Mali, in the first game of AFCON. It was it could have gone either way. We haven't been like outplayed completely. We lost to Rwanda on a swimming pool, artificial turf. It was a terrible game. And no, it was unwatchable football. But other than that, look, besides Morocco win, you look at the teams, it's teams we should be beating. You know what I mean? It's not, but you have to beat them at the end of the day. So, like, look, I'd like to see us get some more high-profile friendlies in England or even an Ireland or something. You know what I mean? We're playing Lesotho, Uganda, and whatever. It's great for morale. It's great for statistics, but I'm a realist as well, thinking like, have we really been tested against top quality opposition? Where's the Cameroons? Where's the Senegals and what have you? Okay, Nigeria we drew with as well in the qualifiers, but if you just go look fixture for fixture, I think it's impressive that we're difficult to beat rather than we this all-conquering South African giants. But yeah, it's a good omen going into the AFCON at the end of the year. Because I mean, you don't need to be the best; you just need to be difficult to beat, as he showed with Cameroon in I think it was 2018,
2017 in Gabon.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's move it on from here and tie a nice bow on that. For those of you listening, do you agree with Firdose? The media's fault. It's everyone's fault. The man.
Everyone's fault.
Everyone's fault. I agree. It's everyone's fault.
Do you agree with Lorenz that this was fueled by the Nigerian fans? Do you want to see Francis's investment bank give this $1 million US? He'll be bigger than Mr.
I want Francis's bank to give us $1 million US.
I'd like my bank to exist in the first place.
First National Francis. You want to join in the debate? OTW_podcast on X and Instagram. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube by just searching for the On the Whistle podcast. Please leave a comment, leave a question. We've got some we'll get to at the end of the pod. And of course, like and subscribe. It really helps us grow our platform and our community. We want the right people here, not a lot of people. That's what I tell everyone. So if you're the right person, subscribe. Let's transition it to somewhere else, Lorenz, and we'll sort of stick with you. I look at Group B and I go, this is an incredibly exciting group. You have the Democratic Republic of Congo with 13 points, powerhouse Senegal with 12, Minnow Sudan with 12. You know, it's a three-way fight. 1 point separates them. I mean, this has got to be the group of death, or I don't know, the most exciting group. Maybe that's a better way of describing it. What have you made of Group B?
I mean, on paper, it was definitely not the group of death for Senegal when this group was drawn. Obviously, DR Congo has been on an amazing run under Sebastian de Sabre, who's done amazing work with Uganda. He was at Pyramids. He's always been a very highly rated coach. That was possibly one of the candidates with Coach Hugo. So to see how consistent he's become with Congo is amazing. But I can't just help but think that Senegal have honestly just shot themselves in the foot by saying we need a new direction from Aliou Cisse. He was there, was building something, maybe not getting exactly what the Senegalese Football Association wanted. I don't know if there was also politics or something there.
Well, I think the move there came from the Minister of Sport, and the government ministers sort of wanted him out, whereas the Football Federation, I think, were quite happy to continue.
I think he would have coasted through this group again. He knows the players like the back. He even knows the young players coming through because he's been there for so long. Um, Obviously Sudan is a big surprise. The Ghanaian coach Kwesi Appiah comes in there, and also like South Africa makes them difficult to beat because they're unbeaten, 3 wins, 3 draws. And they're playing Senegal. So I think the whole continent will have eyeballs on that fixture in the next World Cup qualifier because you said it's the goal difference is very close, the points is very close. It's you can't really predict. But my money would be on Congo actually if I had to put my money on something because I think with Senegal there's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. And Congo is just, I think they're just enjoying it. When last were they in a World Cup? I can't even remember. So I think DR Congo will take this Group B, and maybe Senegal will go to the playoffs, and
And win
then
that.
a backdoor to the World Cup. So because they're strong enough to be capable of doing things like that.
Yeah, I I really, really agree with your analysis, but I actually want to speak more from the heart. I think a country like DRC deserves to have a little bit of distraction from the challenges that they have had as a nation and what their football team is affording them. If you look at how their supporters turn up for their home games, it is truly mind-boggling. Like you were talking about 115 people at some point in time at the low.
They outnumbered us in our own stadium.
Yes, yes.
Congo, we played Congo in
This is the
Orlando. They
nation.
had more Congolese
Yeah.
fans than us.
The Congolese are a football-loving nation. I believe, the second or third most populous nation on our continent. They have their challenges, but they were one of the first sub-Saharan African teams to go to a World Cup. We forget they were the leaders in this space once upon a time, and they have been taken away from that position for a very long time. And in the midst of the crisis that they're going through, to be able to have football maybe come and serve as a harmonizing element for that country, I know it's not necessarily a footballing argument, but I think if a nation deserved to have a reason around which they could unite, then please may the Democratic Republic of Congo qualify for the World Cup, and may they see in themselves something that can unite them and allow them to maybe build the sort of bridges that their nation needs. And Senegal, unreservedly, if they came second, look, I come from Cameroon and we're currently in the same position. There are countries like Senegal, Cameroon, possibly I think Rwanda, Namibia, Mozambique, Comoros. These are the countries that are in that second tier space. And only 4 of these countries will be vying for that. And that's why, again, if we were to speak about Nigeria, they're so far off even from that space. That's why I don't think the conversation around the Nigerians championing the Lesotho cause is valid, because they're not even in the argument for those top, only the best 4 second place will go into that little intracontinental battle before they go to the intercontinental one. So for me, I think yes, I want to believe Cameroon, by the end of the day, we would probably still top our group, because we still have this game against Cape Verde. We are only 1 point behind them, so we have something to play for when we actually meet. And I think this team should be able to do that. And if Cape Verde dropped into that space and for whatever reason Senegal was one of those 4, I think Senegal would be the best placed team to be able to win that and beat whatever Oceanic, or I can't even remember which other continental group we'll have to spar with a bit. But I think they would still make it to the World Cup. And if we got to the World Cup and Africa had 10 nations like South Africa, DRC, Ghana, Senegal, add to that Cameroon, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, we would really have a good chance. I would be crying for Nigeria, to be honest, because I think they should be there, but they should have been in another group. But if you have to pick at present, I think the way it's going, we could have really 10 amazing ambassadors in North America. And we could really be going there with hope that one of these teams, if not two, could make it into the semifinals if they're drawn in the right kind of
absolutely.
that could allow us to map our way into the latter stages of the tournament. I really genuinely believe, Zayn, you and I, we've had this conversation for many years. I have always believed that 2020 was one of those gifts of Ayatu, when they were doing this battle from the days when Africa had one representative to two, to three, to five, and for us to be looking forward to a World Cup where Africa can possibly have 10 representatives, there is no way you can convince me that we will not be better placed to at least challenge to be participants in the latter stages of the tournament.
And just to come in with one fact, 1974 is when Zaire qualified for the World Cup, now known as the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And they took along with them a lot of witch doctors and assistants. There were more assistants than they were players in their traveling party.
They were champions of Africa as well.
Mobutu Sese Seko. They had, each player had 2 witch doctors assigned to them for their well-being.
Wow. Wow.
That's the way to do it, man. That's the way.
They didn't win a single game, so
stronger juju elsewhere. Huh? I know we're wrapping up and we're getting there, but I just wanted to go over 2 more talkers, and maybe Firdose will bring you in here if you want to kick us off, for anyone, because this is a braai, right? Safe space, anyone can talk. We're seeing our North African cousins, brothers, sisters, in top positions, the likes of Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. They all read their groups. Do we expect the bulk of our nations at the North and Central American World Cup to come from the North? Because I know this is often a debate and a balance. Does the North represent all of us? Do they represent a portion? Do they disproportionately represent us? Do they have cross-cultural identity with the Arab world and the Middle East? Like, there's 4 nations doing really well at the moment and look like they're gonna sew up their qualification.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, Zayn, I might exit our braai slightly early due to other constraints, but I just wanted a word on Morocco, who I've been following us mostly through the women's team, actually, and the development that's going on there. I just think what we can't argue with is the amazing amount of funding, government backing, monarchy backing, whatever it is that's gone on there. You all know that I'm working together with Janine van Wyk on her story. And when she spoke to me about Morocco, she has said that the facilities are out of this world good, that it is, next level fabulous. And that if other countries had things like that, and, Lorenz was speaking about the kind of resource stretch at SAFA, and there was a story in the newspapers over the weekend about salaries not being paid. And I mean, this is South Africa, and salaries were not paid, and people are struggling, and you can imagine what goes on elsewhere. And if I'm sure if people had the resources of the North African countries and the cohesiveness, and I heard you on your previous podcast with Velile talking about the North African vote and the kind of banding together there. And, if there was that same kind of banding together from everyone else and also from a resource perspective, just to Francis's point, Africa would be really strong. We'd have teams in the knockouts all the time at World Cups. We might even have finalists by now. We might have won by now. So, yeah, I think that maybe it's a lesson. Maybe it's for us to examine the more kind of cultural differences. Maybe it's also, Francis's point around what's happening in Congo, and the same thing with Sudan. There's a lot of countries in crisis as well who, are hoping and leaning on football as a tool of hope, perhaps more than anything else. So I think there's a lot to unpack from a social, kind of cultural, political perspective. But I might have to leave you to unpack that and join you again next time. And maybe by next time we'll know if South Africa have the points docked or not, and then I'm exiting males football forever.
We'll bring Lorenz back so you can ask him all your blistering questions.
I will. I'm going to message him soon and be like, hey, listen, are you keeping a record of all the yellow cards?
Firdose, thank you. We'll let you go.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Francis, Firdose, sorry, thank you for all the analysis. We wish you well. Lorenz, Francis, do you want to come in, or are you happy to take the last?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I mean, like, to speak to the point, again, I am one of those people who believes if we are flying flag Africa, we are flying flag Africa. The Maghrebian space is just as passionately African as it as the sub-Saharan space. At present, we are seeing 5 of those nations topping their groups and having the potential of immediate and or automatic qualification for the World Cup in North America. So that's Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia. They're really in like good positions at present. But if you look at these other countries that are also topping up their spaces, and again, I'm excited by this 9 or potential 10. If you're talking about the DRC and you're talking about South Africa, this is a resurgent South Africa, difficult to beat. That's all you really need at tournaments, because then you're looking for your 1-0s to take you through. So we're talking about a DRC, we're talking about a South Africa, we're talking about a potential Cameroon if we can get over the Cape Verdean challenge, a Cote d'Ivoire, and a Ghana. And if you were to add to that a Senegal, the only one really big nation that will be missing from this will be Nigeria, dare I say. But you never know how the chips may land in the end. But I see a potential for these 10 nations being present at the World Cup. And just like Firdose was saying before she left us, the most important thing is how we are maximizing the chances of Africa finding itself in the latter stages of the tournament. And here we're talking semifinals and finals, quarters and beyond, but the semifinals and the finals. It's a space we need to lock down. And we have had a lot of success from sub-Saharan Africa in spite of, not because of. And that's been our challenge. Cameroon's record, this could potentially be our 9th participation at a World Cup. It's a phenomenal record for a relatively small nation that was introduced to football or had football, its first ball, introduced to it in 1926. So let's be brutally honest. It's like, it's a new sport, but we adopted it. It's our national identity, but we're passionate about it. But the example of the North African countries must be copied. The ability to have investment in infrastructure, in talent from youth level, in the women's game, the ability to not only just have playing staff, but to have coaching staff. The fact that now to get your badges, the courses are run in Morocco and in Egypt. So even for refereeing, which is a big part of the standard of the game, because I want to say, even to speak to the point about South Africa, I want to believe that the referees, or at least the officials from CAF or FIFA, whoever was CAF who will handle the tournament, should have a list of eligible players and non-eligible players, and should be able to even highlight before kickoff to the players or to the team management that, hey, player number 8, that Mr. Nkwain, I have him down on my app or on my thing as somebody who should be eligible for this game. I hope you know you're running the risk of forfeiting 3 points and 3 gold. Should be. It's not rocket science. We're not in the business of setting up the teams for failure, but this kind of lessons and understandings have to come from institutions, and we must invest in them. And that's what the North Africans have done well. They have these things. You go to Morocco and you see their national training center. It is mind-blowing. It genuinely is. And you can only expect Moroccan football to reflect that investment, that commitment. You go to Egypt, it's not for nothing that CAF has its headquarters in Egypt, because they have the administrative know-how. They have invested in football for many years. The way their clubs function in the latter stages of our intercontinental or intracontinental competitions, whether it's our Champions Leagues, or the teams that are usually winning these tournaments are coming from that space. So even at club level, they're demonstrating that they are committed to the African cause. They are part of the African cause. And it's for us to embrace it and do better exchanges, learn a little bit more, so that we too can also, in our local spaces, whether it be Lesotho or whether it be Cameroon, that we can augment the quality of our proposition, so we can also maybe eventually not be questioning what part of Africa is being represented, but it's whether we have the best of Africa representing us.
And isn't that like Francis to get the Best of Africa awards in his last line? You can't even make that up, but it is the best awards that takes place in London and goes around the world. My favorite night was just at the SJAs the other night, the Sports Journalist Awards. You can go check out on my Instagram, Zayn Nabbi. I'm nice and easy. I'm easy in so many ways. But on Instagram and X,
That sound is so dodgy. Was there anything, Lawrence?
I'm easy on the eye, Francis.
I'm so easy in so many ways.
I'm easy to please.
After that
Even
passionate
that is dodgy.
I'm saying after that passionate speech, there's two things that's popped up. I don't know if you know about this, but in Group H with Tunisia, I think Tunisia, out of all those North Africans, are probably, I don't want to use the word poor, but less resourced.
Poor cousin. Poor cousin. We all know what
Yeah,
poor cousin is, right?
the facility is not that good. There's a lot of security risks. Fans always can't fill up the stadiums and stuff like that. But they're so consistent. But that group is interesting because Namibia is 4 points behind them with 12 points, right? But I don't know if you guys remember when the start of this campaign, because of the AFCON, we forgot about this. The start of this campaign, Equatorial Guinea beat Namibia 1-0. Emiliano Nusue scored the goal. He went on, he won the Golden Boot at AFCON, and then FIFA said he was not eligible to play for Equatorial Guinea, and Namibia got the 3 points. If you look at the recent game between Equatorial Guinea, their captain and up front was Emiliano Nusue, so he was reinstated to be eligible by FIFA. So I am thinking that soon enough they're going to be asking, when are you going to reinstate our 3 points? So that group can really dramatically change there as well. I don't know what's
Good point.
where the situation is right now. So that we need to keep in mind of Group H. It could swing, but I think Tunisia might be like, guys, you can fight whatever. We'll still that's that second spot then that maybe that's going to be up for grabs. The second thing I wanted to say about what Francis was saying about Morocco, it's a very interesting thing because I was there with the women's AFCON, and so somebody told me something interesting of they don't have diamonds, they don't have gold, they don't have all these natural resources like in the Congo, in South Africa, and whatever. So they've really, you probably have seen it if you watch the CAF Awards, if you watch the draws there, it's become like a tourism advert. They're doing that Saudi vibe, they're doing that Qatar vibe, where let's invest in football, let's host tournaments, let's drive more tourism into Morocco to improve our our financial revenues and things like that. So I mean it's a very not unique, but it's a very interesting way of that country is decided, let's invest in football because it's going to improve our tourism and the outlook the outlook of what Morocco is, you know what I mean? And every chance that they get, every tournament that they host, boom, it's like it's increasing the just what people how people see and perceive Morocco in the same way that I don't want to say Saudi and the Gulf
Yeah,
are
you're
doing,
right. You're right. The under
it's
17 tournament is beginning there in a matter of days.
and Cote d'Ivoire pulled out of the under 20 tournament a couple of
Yeah. And they will
around.
probably take that.
I think Egypt will take it. I think Egypt is also North Africa, so these guys have the money just to let's do it, or they prioritize it more than anything else, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's I think Group H, just to finish off, keep an eye on that one.
Sure. Guys, we're going to wrap the pod now. But there are a number of smaller nations that I love to keep an eye on: Comoros, Cape Verde, or Cabo Verde, Namibia, and others fighting to go to North and Central America. Francis, Lorenz, who are your picks to either come through the group stage or maybe sneak in through the qualifiers? I've mentioned three. There are a lot of others. We've spoken about Lesotho. There's others, but of the Cinderella stories, who do you guys think will emerge?
Well, if I were to be honest, Capo Verde, who happen to be in Cameroon's group, are a team that I think are deserving of this international platform that is the World Cup because they're passionate about the game. They're very good at the game, and they've gifted the world through their diaspora some of the most phenomenal players that we have enjoyed, but not under the Capo Verdean flag. They're a team that I think have what it takes, not just to qualify, but to participate and do Africa proud. But my patriotic hat insists that I say that they will not be making it to this World Cup as leaders of Group D, because Cameroon has to take that position. But the other team that I really like is another Lusophone country, is actually Mozambique. I dare not call them a small nation. They're not like the Comoros, which are another country that's flying. But they're about 5 countries at present who won 12 points or more in the second position. And it's these countries that kind of will be competing going forward for that best of the seconds slot. So I think Mozambique is the one country that I think could be extremely competitive in that space. But the point that Lorenz has just made now has me reviewing something, because I had Namibia down as one of those, because they also sit on 12 points. So if all of a sudden Namibia is doing an automatic qualification, hypothetically speaking, let's say they're able to get their points back and they rise and they go through, then you might have Tunisia instead coming in as one of those countries that will be vying for the top 4 second spots. But at present, the team that I think that would probably have the craziest and most beautiful story would be Cape Verde. But unfortunately, as a Cameroonian, I will have to pour water on their fire, because that would mean I won't be turning up in North Africa to cheer on my nation. And what's a World Cup without Cameroon?
I agree with that. We need more celebrations. Lorenz.
Look, I agree with the Mozambique. They've been playing some good football. I was surprised that they didn't get a result. I mean, they got hammered by Algeria. I was surprised that it was such a big scoreline, because they've been playing good football. And even the time when they had Abel Xavier as head coach, I was quite close to him at the time, and he was telling me about all these, under 20s and under 23s that are coming up, and that they have a bright future. So obviously I've been watching them closely. A lot of their players are playing in Portugal, Gene Catamo. They've got good players. I'm also surprised that Angola has been so poor in this qualification. That was one of the teams that I really wanted to see them, take their football to the next level. But if you look at the points, you have to be realistic. Besides the Cameroon, Cape Verde, I think everybody is on top. Is probably going to stay on top. I think that's where there's going to be a close battle. But then you look at Gabon, unlucky. They 1 point behind Ivory Coast. They've got 15 points, which is really good. And then Burkina Faso, I've always had a soft spot for Burkina Faso. So I don't know why. They've always been a team that I love watching. They're always entertaining. They always have these bright characters in their team. There's always just something about them that you always want to watch them. So I'm hoping that they can maybe in the last few games slip into that top 4 and have a chance, because they're really entertaining team. Play with a lot of heart, and they've
It's
obviously
that
always
spirit of Thomas Sankara that you like.
yeah. The Aristide Banses, they always have these cult heroes, the Petropias, the Capores.
Yeah.
You always remember at the end of each AFCON, and we want to see that also on the world stage to give the World Cup some color, especially in the USA. So yeah, I'm hoping the guys like Burkina Faso and Gabon. Gabon's always an interesting team as well to watch.
Sure.
But
Sure. Gentlemen, thank you for the pod. It's been amazing getting your insight. Lorenz, good friend of the show, thank you for coming. Francis, you're like furniture. We want you time. From Joburg, from London to Yaoundé, we wish you well, and please leave a comment, leave a review, help people find the show.